They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry!
All right, guys. I know we all want to say that this does not happen to us, but it really does. I mean, if you just think about human psychology, it takes a toll with these players that have missed an extended period of time, with these players that we have not had a chance to see over the past few weeks. I mean, they are forgotten. I know that we don't want to say they are, but we don't really remember where we should be valuing them in these fantasy basketball formats. We don't know if we should be buying, selling, or just holding. So I figured it would make sense for myself to go through and make a video with some guys that have missed extended durations of time, regardless of if that's with an injury or if that's with COVID, and be able to talk about what I think we should be doing with them in our fantasy basketball leagues. But before we get into the video, if y'all have not already, please go down there, drop that like, leave that comment, subscribe to the channel. It helps us out so much. And not tomorrow, but the next day, I'll be making another video where I go through and answer all of your fantasy basketball trade questions. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to get to every single comment, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take half of the comments from this video and half of the comments from the video that is going to be uploaded tomorrow. And then I'm going to make that video regarding your trade questions. So please go down there and ask any ones that you have. And I would love if you included the players in this video. But that's it. Let's dive into it. And our first player that we are going to talk about is a player that is a black box. I mean, someone that has the upside of Kevin Durant, but at the same time, we are sitting here going, I mean, is it worth it? And this is Michael Porter Jr. Okay, so with Michael Porter Jr., I know he just returned, but so far in 2021, he has only been able to play 5 games, and this is because of COVID. Obviously, Michael Porter Jr. has had COVID twice now, so, I mean, I think it's safe to say this man has the antibodies. We don't have to be worried about him in the slightest going forward. But before we had him leave due to COVID, I mean, this was a player averaging 17 points, 55% from the field, 90% from free throw line, 2.5 threes a game, 6.5 rebounds, 2 assists. But what's most surprising with Michael Porter Jr., because I know a lot of people want to view him mainly just as a player that's going to score on the perimeter, someone that's just going to be the third option for this Nuggets team, not necessarily going to do anything but provide them with scoring. So he is averaging over a steal and over a block a game. So in those category leagues and even in those point leagues, that is going to make a massive difference with his evaluation compared to a player that is only giving you maybe 0.2 blocks or a player that's only giving you 0.4 steals. And then also for those category leagues, generally I like to avoid talking about turnovers because we know that with turnovers, if you are avoiding them, you are avoiding players that are high usage guys that are going to be able to give you production at every other category. But I think it's worth saying that with Michael Porter Jr., I mean, he is averaging less than half a turnover a game. And this makes sense because the Nuggets are not asking him to do a ton. I mean, he really just fits in with what they want to do. That's why his efficiencies are so high. So I'll say with Michael Porter Jr., I think that this is a player that in category leagues specifically because of his turnovers and his efficiency from everywhere on the basketball court, he's a player that I want to be buying. I know he has a ton of name value, so he's not going to come cheaply. But I think because of him missing that extended duration of time, he's someone that we can get away with purchasing a little bit lower than we should. All right, so now our next player we are going to talk about is also recovering from COVID, and this is going to be Jayson Tatum. Okay, so with Jayson Tatum, we got to see 10 games so far in 2021. And with those 10 games, I mean, it looks like he is taking it to a completely another level. I mean, 35 minutes a game, almost 30 points a game. We know, I mean, his efficiency is going to be through the roof. 90% from the free throw line for those category leagues. 3.5 3-point shots made a game. 7 rebounds, 4 assists. Also a player giving you a steal and a block a game. So with Jayson Tatum, I know Kemba Walker is coming back. I know Jaylen Brown has taken that step forward. But as soon as we have Jayson Tatum back on the floor for the Boston Celtics, I'm expecting this player to be an elite guy for us, regardless of if you're playing in a point league or a category league. So if you could take a LeBron James, possibly move him for a guy like Jayson Tatum, if it makes sense for your roster and the other pieces in the deal add up, I think that's a move I would like to do. I mean, I think with the majority of these players, just because they've been unavailable, just because we have not been talking about them every day, they're going to come at a discount. They're going to come at a value. And I know we want to say that's not the case. I know we want to say that we are robots. We're not humans. We're smart enough to not be devaluing these guys. But I'm telling you, I mean, just by playing Dynasty Fantasy Football for like 6-7 years now, where I'm just talking trades with people every single day throughout the entire year, those guys that are coming back from long injuries, like a guy, just give a perfect example, like a Courtland Sutton right now in fantasy football, I mean, naturally their value is lowered, regardless of if it should be or not. That's what we are seeing, and it's just because you don't talk about the player every day. I mean, we are talking about Jaylen Brown every day. We're not talking about Jayson Tatum. But anyway, our next player is going to be someone that has only played 4 games, and it's because he had a wrist injury earlier on in the year, and then on January 15th, he tested positive for COVID, and this is going to be KarlAnthony Towns. And here with KarlAnthony Towns, obviously, whoever drafted him at the very beginning in the first round of their fantasy basketball drafts. And he's killing it. I mean, 22 points a game, 3 blocks a game, 4.5 assists, almost 13 rebounds. KarlAnthony Towns, in the limited action that he saw, looked like a dominant player that we were expecting him to be. But like I said, I mean, he has not been around. So if you could take a Nikola Jokic, a guy that I loved at the end of the first round because of his assist numbers, I think if you can take him, sell him for KarlAnthony Towns plus another piece at this point, that would be something I would love to do, because we are having Cat come back, I mean, very soon. I mean, he tested positive like 9 days ago. So I think we see KarlAnthony Towns back relatively soon. And if you could get 10% of a discount on him, I mean, that's going to make so much sense in the long haul. And now our next player, going to be someone that is on everybody's mind because of his performance in the playoffs, his performance specifically in the finals. It's going to be Jimmy Butler. I mean, here, Jimmy Butler has only been able to play 6 games so far this year, 16 points, 5.5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals. Now, I'll say with Butler, I mean, maybe this is a player that is not as forgotten as some of these other guys on this list, just because we know that we have that vividness bias of him in the NBA Finals. So I think possibly if there's going to be anybody here that we are not going to be able to purchase at a slight discount, it is going to be Jimmy Buckets. But let me know what y'all think. I mean, if y'all get any offers, this is why that comment section is so useful. I would love to hear the questions. I think maybe we had a question on another video that was asking Jimmy Butler or Kyrie Irving. Maybe that was the guard that was being traded for Jimmy Buckets, but I am not 100% sure. All right. So now our next player is going to be, in my opinion, quite possibly the best player from the 2019 NBA draft. And this is going to be Ja Morant. I mean, with Ja Morant, we obviously is coming back from that high ankle sprain and coming back a little bit earlier than I expected, to be completely honest. We've only seen 5 games from him where he's giving us over 22 points a game. He's giving us over 7 assists a game at the same time. And he has very high percentages to go along with this. Now, I'll say with Ja Morant, I mean, if you could trade for him with the production that he is currently having, I think that's something we would love to do. Because if you are trading for just player X that is averaging 22 points, 7 assists a game, just say you have to give $10 for that player. If you can make that type of deal for Ja Morant, obviously this is just a hypothetical with the $10 example, you're going to have to give a player. You know what I'm talking about. But I think that would make a ton of sense, because every game back from that high ankle sprain, I think we're going to see the usage go up. And with Ja, I mean, he is still extremely young. I mean, a player that is younger than I am. I think he has so much room to progress in that rotation, so much room to progress in the NBA. So I'd love to buy him right now if we can. And now our last player is going to be someone that I wanted nothing to do with in fantasy basketball drafts this past offseason. And honestly, I think that he may be a great buy low, because with Russell Westbrook, he is going to be coming back any day now. And we know the entire conversation about Russell Westbrook so far this season has been he has looked horrendous. He looks like one of the worst players in the NBA with the amount of usage that he has, because if you look at his efficiency numbers combined with his turnovers, I mean, they are laughable. I mean, when he is on the court for the Wizards, they are worse than when he's off the court. But if we are talking about a fantasy basketball league that is not a category league, so you don't really care too much about those efficiency numbers and you want to see the stat box just filled, I mean, he's going to give you 20 points a game. He's going to give you close to 9, 10 rebounds a game, close to 11 assists. I mean, he still is a player that can easily average a triple-double. And because he's coming back any day now, and we have this entire narrative around Russell Westbrook being one of the worst players in the NBA at this point this season, I think if you could trade for him on the extreme low, not in a category league, please do not trade for him in a category league, it would make sense. Now, thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. I really hope y'all got something from it. As always, if y'all did, go down there, drop that like, leave that comment, subscribe to the channel. It really, really helps us out. And yeah, that's it. I'll see y'all with the video tomorrow.